The pounding on my apartment door hit like thunder at 2:17 a.m., rattling the cheap frame and sending my coffee mug crashing to the floor. I froze in the dark, heart slamming against my ribs. The sharp smell of spilled instant coffee cutting through the stale air of my one-bedroom in Williamsburg. 3 unread texts glowed on my phone screen like accusations. Helen. Cassandra. Hatton. And they were here for me, the woman the tabloids still called the villain. I pressed my back to the peeling wall, breath shallow, listening to the rain lash the window like it was trying to drown out the past. 6 months ago I'd been Lila Thompson, struggling illustrator scraping by on freelance gigs. Then the scandal dropped, me, the other woman in the very public, very messy breakup of a socialite couple everyone followed. They painted me as the heartless homewrecker who ruined everything for a shot at money and clout. None of them knew the truth. None of them cared. The knocking stopped. A low voice slipped through the door. Lila. I know you're in there. My stomach twisted. Helen Voss, tech empire built on AI that ran half the Fortune 500. 40 million Instagram followers who worshipped her every power suit and red carpet smile. I'd met her exactly once. At that charity gala where I was pouring drinks to pay rent. She'd looked at me like I was the only real thing in the room. I cracked the door 2 inches. Chain still latched. Rain dripped from her dark hair onto the shoulders of a black coat that probably cost more than my yearly income. Her eyes, sharp, storm gray, softened the second they found mine. You're shaking, she said quietly. I let out a shaky laugh that sounded more like a sob. Yeah. 3 billionaires showing up at my door tends to do that. She didn't smile. She just waited. The time and money in the world and still choose to stand in the hallway with me. I unlatched the chain. That was the first crack in the wall I'd built since the scandal. The next morning the flowers arrived, 3 separate bouquets, each with a card. Helen's was simple white roses. Note in her precise handwriting, no pressure. Just coffee if you want. Irene's was wild poppies and lavender. Scent filling my tiny kitchen like a meadow in the middle of Brooklyn. Her message softer, you don't have to be the villain in my story. Cassandra's was blood red lilies. Bold and unapologetic, dinner. My jet. I stood there in my ratty tank top, barefoot on the cold linoleum, breathing in the mix of floral sweetness and the faint garbage truck rumble outside. My chest ached with something I refused to name. I didn't answer any of them. Not yet. At the tiny coffee shop where I sometimes sketched for extra cash. She ordered a black espresso and sat across from me without asking, the steam curling between us like a question mark. You ghosted me, she said, voice low, almost amused. I traced the rim of my mug, the ceramic warm under my fingertips. I don't date billionaires. Especially not ones who probably read the articles. She leaned in. Sandalwood of her cologne, clean. Expensive. I read them. Your illustrations. The way you draw light like it hurts to hold it. My breath caught. No one ever mentioned my art. Not the reporters. Not the trolls. Stealing. Helen's fingers brushed mine when she reached for the sugar. Electricity shot up my arm. I pulled back like I'd been burned. Careful, I whispered. Half to myself. I break things. She didn't flinch. So do I. That's why we build empires. The micro-tensions kept stacking after that. Irene found me next, at the Brooklyn flea market where I sold prints on weekends. She appeared in a cream cashmere coat, blonde hair catching the weak sunlight. Looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine I could never afford. She picked up one of my ink drawings of the Manhattan skyline at dusk and traced the lines with a manicured nail. "This is how I feel when I look at you," she said simply. I laughed. The sound cracking in my throat. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Her voice dropped, soft as the cashmere. "I know the world tried to bury you and you kept drawing anyway." We walked the market together, shoulders occasionally brushing. The scent of street vendor pretzels and her subtle rose perfume wrapping around me. Every time our hands almost touched over a vendor table. My pulse jumped. Cassandra was the storm, texting at odd hours. Sending a town car to my building with a note that simply read "Tonight." I ignored it. 3 different kinds of want pressing in from every side. Weeks blurred. Bench in McCarran Park with 2 coffees and no agenda. We'd sit in silence sometimes. Watching joggers and dogs. The autumn leaves crunching under our boots. One afternoon she took my hand, really took it, and held it like it was fragile. My throat tightened. "Why me?" I asked. Voice barely above the wind. She squeezed once. "Because when everyone else saw the villain, I saw the woman who survived the fire." Irene's moments were quieter. Deeper. Gallery after hours, empty rooms filled with art that made my chest hurt. We stood in front of a massive abstract piece. Colors bleeding into each other like emotions you can't name. She stepped behind me, close but not touching, her breath warm on my neck. "You feel like this painting," she murmured. "Beautifully complicated." I turned. Our faces were inches apart. The air between us hummed. I could smell the faint trace of her lipstick, something expensive and floral. My heart screamed yes while my brain screamed run. I stepped back. "I don't trust anyone." The words fell out raw. Hanging in the gallery's hush like a gunshot. Irene's eyes shimmered. But she didn't push. She just nodded once. Slow. That confession. "Then let me earn it. One day at a time." Helen was the one who finally broke through the wall. It happened on a rainy Thursday night in her penthouse, glass walls overlooking the glittering city. Rain streaking the windows like tears. I'd come because she promised no expectations, just dinner and conversation. But somewhere between the second glass of wine and the third story about my worst freelance client, the distance between us on the couch disappeared. Her knee brushed mine. Then her hand rested on my thigh. Warm through my jeans. I looked up and found her watching me like I was the only light in the room. "Lila," she said, voice rough. "Tell me to stop and I will." I didn't. Instead I leaned in. Slow enough that she could pull away. Our lips met, soft at first. Tentative. Then deeper. Mine gripping the front of her silk shirt. The city hummed far below us, but all I could hear was the soft sound of her breathing. The quiet sigh she let out when I kissed her harder. When we finally broke apart, Foreheads touching. She whispered. I laughed. Tears pricking my eyes. I'm still the villain. Helen. She kissed my temple. Then be the villain in my story. I'll rewrite the ending. Irene found out 2 weeks later. Not from gossip, from me. I told her over late-night takeout in my apartment. The kind of honest that leaves you raw. She listened without interrupting, chopsticks paused halfway to her mouth. The city lights painting soft shadows across her face. When I finished, she set the food down and took both my hands. I'm not mad. I'm relieved you trust me enough to say it. Her thumb traced circles on my wrist, sending little sparks up my arm. The tension that had been simmering between all three of us suddenly sharpened. Cassandra had been pulling harder lately, private jets. Lavish offers, but Helen and Irene felt different. Real. That night Irene stayed. We didn't sleep together. Not yet. We just lay on my lumpy couch, her head on my chest, listening to the radiator clank and the distant sirens. Her fingers drew lazy patterns on my stomach. And every so often she'd press a kiss to my collarbone like she was memorizing me. The real conflict hit the week after. A tabloid dropped a new headline, Dylan Lila Thompson now linked to 2 billionaires, Helen Voss and Irene laying in bitter rivalry? Photos of me leaving Helen's building, another of Irene and me at the gallery. They dug up every old lie, twisted every kind gesture into something ugly. My phone exploded. Hate comments. The usual. But worse was the call from Helen's PR team telling her the board was nervous, dating the most hated woman in New York could tank stock prices. Irene's media empire faced the same whispers. I sat on my fire escape that evening. Knees to my chest. Cold metal biting through my jeans. Watching the sun bleed out over the rooftops. The smell of someone's cooking drifted up, garlic and tomatoes. Normal life I suddenly missed. Helen found me there. She climbed out the window in her tailored slacks like it was nothing. Sat beside me. And didn't speak for a long time. Finally she said. I can make the board disappear. I can buy every tabloid and shut them down. But I won't if you don't want me to. I laughed. That's the problem. You can. But then I'm just the kept woman again. The villain who got saved by money. Irene appeared at the window a minute later. Like she'd known. She squeezed in on my other side. The three of us crowded on the narrow escape. Shoulders touching. The city stretching out like a glittering choice. Irene's voice was quiet but steady. We're not asking you to choose us over you. We're asking you to let us stand beside you while you choose yourself. My throat burned. The old fear, the one that said I'd always be the villain. Always be the one left holding the blame, rose up sharp. I could run. A life. Safe and alone. Or I could step into their world and risk becoming exactly what everyone already believed. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of both their bodies against the evening chill. The faint scent of Helen's cologne mixing with Irene's rose. I don't know if I can be the woman you see, I whispered. Helen's hand found mine. Irene's rested on my knee. You already are, Helen said. The decision wasn't clean. There was no perfect moment where everything clicked. Cassandra eventually stepped back, gracefully. With a single text that read, "You deserve the kind of love that doesn't come with conditions." Helen and Irene stayed. We didn't move in together. We didn't announce anything flashy. We just existed. Quiet dinners in my apartment where Helen burned the pasta and Irene laughed until she cried. Late nights in Helen's penthouse where I sketched them both while they argued business deals in low voices. Walks through Central Park where Irene would slip her fingers through mine. And Helen would watch us with that soft, fierce pride that still made my stomach flip. The tabloids still called me names sometimes. Old comments resurfaced. But the three of us built something quieter than empire, something that felt like home. Some mornings I still wake up wondering if I'll be the villain again tomorrow. Then Helen presses a kiss to my shoulder and Irene murmurs my name like a promise. And the doubt fades into the background hum of the city. It's not perfect. Love with two of the most powerful women alive never could be. But it's real. And for the first time since the scandal, I don't feel like I'm running. I feel like I'm finally walking towards something worth chasing back.